Have you ever jumped into a new coding project just buzzing with excitement, only to find yourself completely tangled up in a mess of changing goals and, well, chaos? Today, we're going to look at a really powerful way to stop that from ever happening again. This is all about the Python Project Constitution, a method for building your software with a solid blueprint right from day one. So here's the plan. First, we'll dig into this idea of code before the code. Then we'll get our hands dirty with a constitution for a simple to-do app. After that, we'll see how this blueprint drives the whole workflow, how it keeps our focus on the user, and ultimately, how it sets your project up for a win.
All right, so let's get into it. Why do we even need to think about something like a constitution? Well, let's start by looking at the chaos that so many of us have experienced. I mean, it's a question every single developer faces, right? You get a cool idea, you fire up your editor, and you just start coding. But without a real plan, that initial burst of energy can quickly fizzle out into confusion, rework, and that dreaded scope creep. So how do you bring some order to that creative storm?
Well, the answer is a project constitution. And you should think of it exactly like a blueprint for a house. I mean, you would never let a construction crew just show up and start throwing up walls without one, would you? This document does the exact same thing for your software. It locks in the goals, the rules, and the features before you even type import.
Now, all that theory is great, but let's make this real. Let's see how this actually works by building a constitution for a classic little developer project.
We're going to use a super straightforward to-do list app as our example. Now, the key details here are that it's in memory, meaning it forgets everything when you close it, and it runs right in the console. This simplicity is on purpose, right? It lets us focus completely on the planning process, not on a bunch of complex tech.
So, the very first thing our constitution does is lock in the absolute core requirements. For this app, there are just 5 things it needs to do: add, view, update, complete, and delete a task. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. This one decision immediately puts up a fence against scope creep.
And notice how specific the constitution gets. It doesn't just say, add a feature. It defines the exact command, add, followed by a title and a description, both in quotes. This isn't just a vague idea. It's a precise contract that the code has to fulfill later. There's zero ambiguity.
And for viewing the list, the Constitution demands elegant simplicity. The command is just view, no extra options, no filters, nothing. This is a deliberate design choice made right here in the blueprint phase to keep the experience clean.
When it comes to changing a task, the constitution is, again, super precise. The update command needs a specific task ID. This forces us to think, right from the very beginning, about how we're going to identify and manage each item in our list.
And the pattern just continues. For marking tasks as done, the complete command also targets a specific ID. Every single decision is crystal clear, unambiguous, and locked in before we even think about writing code. And finally, you guessed it, delete also requires a task ID. And just like that, with these 5 simple commands, our entire feature set is defined. There's no room for misinterpretation. The blueprint is complete. Okay, so we have our blueprint. Awesome. But how does this actually change the way we build the project? Let's take a look at how this constitution creates a really powerful spec-driven workflow.
The constitution is always step 1. From that document, you generate detailed, versioned specifications for each feature. Only then do you actually write the code to meet those specs. Finally, you test your code against the specs and iterate. It's a clean, predictable cycle that flows directly from our initial plan.
And get this, the constitution can even lock in the technology stack. For this project, it says we're using a modern Python version and UV for package management. It even names the tools for spec generation and AI-assisted coding. This just completely eliminates those time-wasting debates over tooling and makes sure everyone is building with the same parts from day one.
Now, this all sounds great for us developers, but how do we make sure this technical plan is actually solving a real human's problem? Well, that's where user stories come in.
So, instead of just saying, we need an add feature, the constitution frames it from the user's perspective. This is a user story. It defines who wants the feature, what they want, and most importantly, why they want it. It's a constant reminder that we're building this for a person.
And here's how we make that user story totally concrete. We translate it into what's called an acceptance scenario. Given a certain condition, when a user performs an action, then we expect a specific outcome.
This creates a clear pass or fail test for our feature. It's that simple.
This pattern applies to every single feature. For marking a task as complete, the user story again focuses on the goal, tracking progress. That why is always just as important as the what.
And here's its acceptance scenario. Given an existing task, when the user issues the complete command, then the status has to change. It's this direct link between the user's need and a testable outcome that is the key to building software that actually works for people.
So, let's pull all of this together and look at the big picture principles that make this approach a true blueprint for success.
The Constitution establishes guiding principles that influence every single decision. For our To-Do app, these are: keep it simple, make it easy to maintain, avoid any external dependencies for this first version, and build it in a way that prepares us for future growth, like adding a database later on.
So just remember, starting with a constitution isn't about slowing down, it's about building smarter. It gives the whole team absolute clarity, it builds a fence against scope creep, and it leads directly to cleaner, more reliable code in the end.
When you lay down a foundation of clear rules and user-focused goals before you write any code, you're not just planning a project, you're really engineering its success from the start. So the only question left is, what's the constitution for your next project going to look like?